everybody, and welcome back for another episode of My Chaotic Budget. My name is Sandra, and on my channel, I share everything that is budget related when it comes to mine and my husband's paychecks. We do budget with me's, plan with me's, cash stuffing, savings challenges, etc., etc., and hopefully you will find content on my channel that makes you subscribe. So if you are going to subscribe, I appreciate you 100%. Those of you who have already subscribed, you guys are the best. Okay, so let's get into today's video. Today's video, we are going to be discussing budgeting. Okay, so I know that several of us in the budgeting community already got our plan. Everything is good to go. However, there are some people who don't have a plan and are searching for it. And so hopefully if you are one of those persons who isn't quite sure what you need to be doing, hopefully I can help you a little bit. Now, I am not a financial advisor, but I am somebody who is trying to figure things out when it comes to my budget, my debt, my savings, and everything in between. Let's go ahead and let's talk about this. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and discuss with you guys how I started my journey back in the middle of 2023. It was around August, so it was a little past the middle. So in August is when I was really searching for how I could improve my family's budgeting. Well, first and foremost, I didn't budget at all. I basically was doing a no budget budget. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of go over the process that I went through to get where I am now. First of all, of course, when I started, I had to ask myself, why am I wanting to budget? So I did, of course, want to do this for my family, but at the time I had to figure out, okay, what is budgeting going to do for me? So when I started looking into budgeting, you want to budget because you want to know where your money is going. You want to be able to spend your money more responsibly. So instead of spending $5 here, $5 there, $20 here, $20 there, and then wondering, oh, okay, well, where did my $50 go? Well, darling, if you don't really keep track, then yeah, you're not going to know where those $50 went. So it's a really good way of keeping track of how you spend your money. Now, of course, you can also be focusing on paying down and paying off debt. This is really important, especially for those of us who are looking to improve our budget because debt is just overwhelming and it is taking over. So budgeting is so important because we want to make sure that we are in control of our debt and debt doesn't have control of us. And then of course the next thing you want to do with budgeting, the reason why you want to budget is so that way you can increase your savings and create an emergency fund. An emergency fund is so vital because if anything were to happen, something were to go wrong, you have this money available at hand so that way you can take care of that situation and you don't have to get into more debt and you don't have to go searching around or asking people for money, etc., etc. So it's very important to understand why you should budget. You should budget because it'll help you spend your money more responsibly. It'll help you focus on paying down and paying off debt, and it'll increase savings and create an emergency fund. So this is very important. At least this is how I feel about it for myself. The next thing, of course, is to know, well, how do we budget? A lot of the times when we want to do something, we are getting all excited, but we don't know where to start. And I think that that's something that we all have to figure out. And some of us have already figured it out and some of us haven't. And some of us are still trying to put one and one together. So here's what I wrote down. So what you first have to do is you'll need to figure out what your current spending habits are. You can do this by printing out your past bank statements and begin categorizing what you tend to spend money on the most. Sometimes looking at the past 3 months gives you a better picture, but definitely it will take some time. So you need to know, what is it that has been putting you in this place where you're feeling uncomfortable with your money right before payday happens. You should really dive into your personal expenses. Now, let's say that you're somebody who has not been keeping track at all. So you have no clue where any of your money has gone. Well, then at least you know you have a starting point and you're like, okay, I'm going to start keeping track now. Okay, so once you know what your tendencies are, then you can begin to see where you can make adjustments. So if you are seeing that you're spending way too much money in dining out, then you can say, okay, well, I spent $800 just in dining out in 1 month. okay, let me see if I can bring that down to, let's say, $600 a month. How am I going to make that work? And then from there, you can go ahead and say, oh, well, if I do it and I make it work, I will save $200 just by doing something different and making an adjustment into my dining out. So this is why it's so important to see where your tendencies are, because then that way you know where to make the adjustments. So every budget is different, and so every person and every budgeter is different as well. So we don't all have the same tendencies. We don't all have the same needs or situations. So creating a budget that will work for you will take time and research, kind of getting to know yourself, really. Okay, and it can be a little bit taxing too, especially if you have to budget for a family, because you have to understand that you're not just budgeting for yourself, you're also budgeting for the people who are in your household. So just keep that in mind when you're going to figure out your budget. Okay, so as we get into this next little bit here, it's important to know that there are different ways to budget. I know that when I was looking this up, I saw so many different methods of budgeting, and I know that these were the top 5 that stood out to me. I know that there's plenty more, so maybe there's one out there that you can, that you'll find and be like, oh, she never talked about that one. That one is the one for me. I'm only giving you what I know. Okay, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you the ins and outs of every single thing, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of where to start. Okay. So the 5 methods for budgeting. The very first one and the most popular one, of course, that I've come around is the zero-based budget. And this is basically saying that your income is minus all your expenses and it should zero out. So every dollar has a job, every dollar is accounted for, you know exactly where everything is going. So let me track back just a little bit. What you want to do once you know these methods is probably create a hybrid method. And that's what I do. So I'll let you know what I mean when we get there. All right, so that was the zero-based budget. The second one is the pay yourself first budget. This is when you want to focus on savings and debt. What I mean by that is that after, of course, you take care of your bills, then you go straight into savings and debt. You don't account for anything else. So like, you don't say that you're going to save up for clothing. You don't say that you're going to save up for vacation. No, it is basically just savings and debt. So you're making sure that all of this gets taken care of, so that way you can have money for yourself and your debt goes away a lot faster. Now, this is a little bit more complicated. I couldn't make this one work for myself, to be honest with you. I just really couldn't, because living with my family, I have to think about my children, I have to think about my husband, and this is not just about me. This is about our family. So I do it a little bit differently, and you'll see what I mean in just a little bit. The third one, this is the most popular on YouTube, along with the zero-based budget, is the envelope system. So the envelope system is where everything is done in cash. You budget in cash for all of your bills, all of your expenses, everything you're saving for, all of your debts, every single thing that you can think of, everything is done in cash. And then once you reach to that fully funded point, then you put it back in the bank, and then you take care of it. So that is the envelope system budget. The fourth one is the 50-30-20 budget. This uses 3 categories. The first, of course, is all your necessary expenses, which, of course, you pay for your bills, you pay for your 4 walls, you pay for all of that, and that should only equal 50% of your income. Discretionary expenses is where you allocate where things should go. This is where 30% of my money is going to be spent. And then the third one is the savings and debt payments. This is a little bit difficult because it's like, well, necessary expenses. I think the way that this works is if you have a small amount of debt. You don't have like 20 or 30, 40 different bills, that you have to account for every month. This is more like you have 2 or 3 little loans that are out, and then you can focus, oh, okay, I have 20% towards that. That's only if you're in that kind of situation. I know me personally, this won't work, okay? And then the 5th one is the no budget budget. This is where I had been for the longest time. This is, of course, the no budget budget is where it's flexible spending within your means. You get paid, you pay your bills, you have so much money left over, you do what you will with it until the next payday. The only thing is that means that you only really check your bank account to make sure that you're not in the negative. You only check your bank account to make sure that everything is accounted for, and that's it. You go free willy-nilly on any purchases that you want with the money that is left over after you've done your due diligence with your bills. This is what I had been doing, but doing it this way got me in trouble because we would not know exactly how much money we were going to have left, and we would spend $300, $400, $500, just to go buy groceries. And then it would be a little bit sad because we'd spend about $500 in groceries, and then like within the next week or so, some of that food would go rotten because we didn't eat it. We didn't eat it all, because then we would be finding ourselves going out to eat and spending hundreds of dollars in dining out. And so it's like, well, why did we spend $500? Did we just spend $500 on groceries because we had $500? Did we spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on dining out because we had hundreds and hundreds of dollars? That's the thing, is like the budget, the no budget budget, it works for people who may be single and are in control of themselves. If you have no willpower like me, then I don't suggest this one. Okay, but let me tell you what I do now, right? So what do? I do a hybrid method. And I've seen a lot of people on YouTube do a hybrid method of these various categories here. So for me, I'm a paycheck to paycheck budgeter, but I make sure that I follow the zero-based budget, but my zero-based isn't just income and expenses. The way that I do it is I go income minus the bills, minus my groceries, dining out, gas, and spending, which is my top priorities after the bills. Then I go into my sinking funds, which of course are things that you're collecting money for in the future, to spend for in the future. And then I take away also the savings, and then that brings me to zero. So I'm not just kind of being free willy-nilly with my money. I am thinking about how everything is going. So I'll just show you real quick how I kind of started off. And you can kind of see here where I started my YouTube journey. And this was back on August 23rd. And my cash stuffing total was $489. But I didn't tell you guys how much money I had that I had to work with. And, it's like, oh, okay, well, if I had, then you would see that I had this money here. So right here, this was $489. And then I had this here, $825. So I had $13, $14 really that I was working with at that point. I just didn't have myself or my stuff organized, but I knew basically what I wanted to do. I had already taken care of the bills off camera. Then I went ahead and I went to my GDGS, which is my groceries, dining out, gas, and spending. And I based these numbers a little bit on what I had been doing before, but making some adjustments. And then I said, okay, now I want to be able to stuff for things in the future. And then these were the things that I wanted to stuff for. And then I just checkmarked that I had actually, put them in their envelopes. And then when I went to the bank, I know that I had rollover from the previous paycheck, from the previous GDGS. And so I basically said, oh, okay, well, I will use that, and I will put, how am I going to put this? And how did I have that money? So I had $13 left from dining, $68 left from spending, and then a bill had gotten canceled, and so I had $180 from that. Now, let me show you here a little bit of what I wrote down about what type of budgeter I am. I am a paycheck to paycheck budgeter. And so now what I do is, I can't show you everything that's in this book because this is my private book, but I can give you a little bit of it. If you saw my previous videos, you know more about what's inside. Basically what I do is I have the calendar. And on the calendar, I already have everything written down of when my bills are due. And I also have when we get paid. And so I know which check is going to pay which bills. And then from there, I say, okay, this is the amount that's left over. And then I split it into my GDGS. And then that's what I share with you all on YouTube. So then I go into my budget with me and I say, okay, I've already done all of my bills. I've already taken care of all of that. My leftover amount is $964. How do I take care of this? Well, I take care of my top priorities, right? My top priorities, like I said, is my GDGS. And I say, this is how much I want to put in there. This is my account buffer, which is also goes into my spending, because if I need something, I know I have this account buffer here. Usually I put it for bills. So if they charge me more, a rate changes, something happens, I have a little bit of wiggle room here. So then after these things are taken care of, I had $464 left. Okay, $464 is left. Now I can think about my cash envelopes that I want to do. So you can see how this is a hybrid. It's a zero-based, but it's also thinking about how I'm paying myself first, because I'm thinking this is what I need to take care of. This is what's important to me. And then I can spread the rest for my sinking funds. So it is so important for you to realize how are you going to do these things. So let's get back into my notes here. What type of budgeter am I? I'm a paycheck to paycheck budgeter, and I budget each paycheck we get. It's difficult for me to see a whole month of budget. I'm trying to do that this year, but it's still a lot of numbers, and it's really hard to predict how things are going to fall with which paycheck. And it's difficult for me to do a monthly budget, but it is easier for me to do a paycheck to paycheck budget. Now, I complete a zero-based budget, basically giving every dollar a job. Every dollar has its job. So after all the bills have been paid, this is what I'm left with. And the rest of the dollars, they all have their job. So that's why they're all placed in specific categories. I use my 2 planners, which I just showed you. I have my 2 planners to keep track of all things budget. I have bills, sinking funds, spending, and rollover. So I know exactly where everything is going. I have my overview in the monthly calendar, which I showed you, with paydays and bills. I pay the bills first and foremost. I do not want to have any late fees. I do not want to get anything repossessed. I do not want to be without when it comes to our house, our home, our electricity, our water, all the necessities that we need. I want to make sure that those all get paid first and foremost. Then I take care of my top priorities, which is my GDGS, which is groceries, dining out, gas, and spending, because we need food. We need food for when we need to go out to lunch. We need to get to work. We need transportation, and we need money to spend when we need things for the house. Okay, so all of these here, though, the GDGS, I leave them in the bank. I don't take out cash for those. I leave them in the bank so I can track them a little bit easier. It's harder for me to track cash. It's easier for me to track purchases when I do them online. Then what is left goes into the sinking funds and in my binders. So I have 4 binders currently. And I'm working on a 5th one, which is for my self-care, but that's going to be part of the savings. So we have family, high priority, holidays, and savings. Then when payday comes around, I check my rollover. What was left from the GDGS from the past paycheck? Then I use that rollover to do savings challenges. The savings challenges, for the most part, go towards debt and upcoming holidays and events. I do not restrict myself. This is very important here. I do not restrict myself if I need to pull from my sinking funds to take care of something that goes like that my GDGS cannot cover. So if, let's say that I need to buy more groceries because we've already run out, then I'm going to pull from the household account if I have in my envelope, or I am going to pull from medical, or I will pull from something because my family needs food. I'm going to feed my family. I'm not going to make them starve. That is like a biggest thing of mine. I will not let them starve. So I want to make sure that I do not restrict myself. That money, of course, is planned for the future. But if in the event that I need it, I can use it, and I'm not going to restrict myself. And And then I do have a pre-payday prep checklist. And I showed you guys this in one of my previous videos. So if you go and check that video out, it's season 3, episode 1. I go over my process. In that checklist, I make sure that all the numbers add up. Everything is covered and we are good to go. So this method has helped me pay off 2 debts so far since I started in August. I paid off tires, which I got in September, and I paid off my husband's student loan, which started back up in October. So I am very proud of how I have been able to manage this. Yes, I'm not saying that it's perfect, because there have been times when I've had to use a little bit of credit here, a little bit of credit there, because I don't have enough money to cover certain things. And it's okay. I am not going out there and spending thousands and thousands of dollars on my credit cards like I used to. I used to just go crazy, guys. I would. But now I have more self-control and I only think, do I need it? Is it necessary? What's going on? This is my basic little process here. I know I've gone on a lot, but I feel like this is important to share. So if you're still with me, I really want to applaud you for being here to listen to me. But this is my process. I get paid, or my husband gets paid. I pay the bills. I budget my GDGS. I spread the rest in sinking funds. I use rollover for other savings and debts. And like I said, I see this helping me even more in the future as I get better at this. You can find so many things online to assist you with getting these types of things done. Don't be afraid to do some research. Don't be afraid to look online. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I know I don't have all the answers, and whenever I run into something, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask people for their help. And if they're not willing to help, I'm still willing to search. I will continue to find the answer until I feel like I have learned what I needed to learn. I hope that this video helps you. I hope that if you are hesitating to start your budgeting journey, you don't, that you try your best to get started. You don't need all of this fancy stuff, but what you do need is you need to be able to keep track. And all that takes is a pen and a paper. So however you feel that you can do that, go for it, because the only way to get stuff done is to get started. So I hope you like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you being here, and if you see that this could help somebody, please share it with them. I really want to be out here to be a force in the budgeting community to show that even us small folks can make it happen. So there's no bill too big, no savings too small. Let's get it done. We've got it, you guys. All right, I'll see you all. Bye.